And we're live. Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome again to another edition of Not Voté. This has been a civic participation series, and we've been going since June, talking about all things elections at every level. And we're so excited to be here with our friends, the experts, folks who have a lot to say but know a lot from a great perspective. I would say very informed. So we want to share some of our thoughts with you all to make sure that if you haven't voted already, that you can make an informed decision on Tuesday. Again, I am Sandra Dennis, president and founder of Avancé Ensemble. Avancé Ensemble is a movement for Haitian American millennials to build economic and political power, as well as preserve Haitian culture and Haitian Americans born stateside. Again, excited to be here with our guests, and I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves and tell folks about yourself. Get your shine on. Don't be humble, so that we can kind of talk further the conversation this evening. Let's start with Christina. And share the live, everyone. Share the live, share the live.
I was like multitasking right now. Hi, everybody. My name is Christina Francois, and I am a civic engagement enthusiast. I just really, really believe in the power of voting, not, knowing that it's just one tool in the toolbox for us to see the changes that we want to see in our communities, but knowing that it's crucial because without it, people are making decisions for us rather than with us.
Let's turn to Katya.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me, Sandra. This is I love the work that Avancé Ensemble is doing. I'm pretty bashful. So Katya Saint-Fleur, I wear a lot of hats. I am the principal owner of KSF and Associates. It is a consulting firm, and I also do work with the Census Bureau. So we help to promote making sure that everybody in the United States gets counted. But for the sake of tonight, I'm gonna wear all the hats. We're gonna talk about the importance, of course, of getting out there and getting voted, getting counted, making sure that our voices are heard.
Thank you, Katya. And then we're gonna let Nancy go ahead as well.
Hi, everyone. Nancy Mater. I'm going to be jumping in the conversation as well, but can't wait to hear from you all. I am a proud board member of Avancé Ensemble, and let's have this conversation.
And you're running for office.
Yes. Yes, I am. I am running for Coral Springs Commissioner, and my election is on November 3rd. So mark your ballots.
So she still has a little bit of time. So we're just gonna go there. It's been a lot. So this week, the Biden administration or the Biden camp chose or selected Senator Harris as their VP pick. We also know that there's been a lot going on with USPS, the United States Postal Service. We know that a few weeks ago, I want to say about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we heard about the census deadline moving up. It's a whole pandemic going on. So tell me, what are y'all feeling? What are y'all sensing? What are some of your thoughts about all the stuff that's going on? And I want to start with Christina.
Lots of thoughts and lots of feelings. I feel like so much is on the line. I think that this pandemic has really highlighted the importance of local and state government, and that's what's really on the ballot this weekend and on Tuesday. I feel like this concerted effort to really heighten the distrust of vote by mail was actually really shocking to me, especially knowing that folks should be staying home if they can, knowing that just election security has been something that we've been focusing on like for the past 4 years. We are in Florida, so like there's always people feel some type of way about if their votes count. And so, yeah, and it's really disheartening, but also exciting at the same time because I'm like really heartened by like organizations like Avancé Ensemble and so many other folks that have really stepped up to say like, okay, we know there's a lot going on. We're going to actually sit down and talk about it to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and gets on the same page because that's what it's going to take.
Absolutely. Katya, tell us what's going on for you?
Tons. First of all, we're looking at the number of people who've actually voted so far, and it doesn't match the number of folks who were marching for for criminal justice issues and for Black Lives Matter, I need us to show up better than we're showing up. I need us to make sure that the people who are paying attention, because trust and believe they are paying attention, see that we come out to vote for all elections. And early voting is over in Miami-Dade County and in Broward, but we still have Tuesday. So I have to encourage everybody at this point, even if you've already voted, yo, check on your peoples. Have they voted? Let's hold people accountable. Let's hold the people we're close to accountable. Let's hold our nephews accountable. Let's hold our nieces accountable. Let's hold, some of our friends don't vote and we have no clue. They just don't talk about it because they know how we feel about it. Press people, get them to vote. It takes 10 minutes. Like we do more to go get Popeye's chicken. You know what I mean? Like we were sitting in line trying to get these hot sandwiches and we won't do something as important as voting in these local elections. And Sandra, you know the work that I do in Tallahassee. It is so imperative that we understand what these local elections mean to us. If you are not voting and you have not paid attention to who the state attorney is, then do you really think that Black Lives Matter? Are you really that vested in criminal justice reform? If you're not voting, if you think this is just about Donald Trump, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Katya. I think you nailed it. And I'm just going to ask Nancy to bring some remarks before I give y'all all my opinionated remarks.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add a little bit to Katya. It's just like folks are saying, you know, I'm here for Black Lives Matter. I definitely want my voices to be heard. What other ways can folks get involved at this time? We know that early voting has stopped. We know we have till Tuesday. Some people said, you mentioned check on your folks. Some folks want to know, like, is it too late to be a poll worker? Can I take people to the precincts? What else can they do if they've already voted?
Right. And I guess I'll chime in my opinionated way. I want to pause and say it is a big deal that as much as we're, you know, Amazon Some is a LLC, so we're not nonprofit, so they can't censor us in that kind of way. But I want to say it's a big deal that Senator Harris got selected as the VP pick. And I think with everything that we're going through, that sometimes we don't give it a chance to really kind of think about what it means for our communities, for someone not only to be Black, to be immigrant, to have gone to HBCU. Like these are all huge things that we should at least pause for a minute to say, wow, you know, this is history in the making, if this is to be. The other thing I'll say is to Nancy's point and Katya's point is that there's so much more we can do in terms of making sure that our friends are going out. I think we need to ask the hard questions tonight and tomorrow. Get your text messages going. Ask folks, hey, you know, can you share online? Can you ask? I'm gonna ask 10 of my friends. Can you ask 10 of yours? And let's get the work done to make sure that people not only know of elections. I'm always disheartened when we're at this point in the game and people are like, wait, there's elections. I'm like, oh my God, where have you been? And so making sure that one, ask your people. And I'm talking about the people that's close to you, because a lot of them may not have voted, to Katya's point, but also making sure that we let folks know everything is on the ballot. Everything that you care about, everything that you've been protesting for, they're on the ballot, and we got to make sure we get the work done. We can't just talk. Protest is the first thing, demand is the second. We add step 3. Step 3 is get it voted. Step 4 is accountability. So to get to step 4, we got to go through step 3. So make sure, let's get it done.
And this is not a presidential primary, which I've heard a lot at the polling sites. Like, I already voted in March. So that's shocking to hear as well.
Woo, public education failed us, y'all. But I'm a supporter of public schools. I just want to say that, but a lot of us need to go back to civics because we missed that part. We might have been sleeping or something like that.
Like the half of semester was not enough. Let me just say that.
You know, it's American government, they have economics, so there's a lot that we didn't get. Let's talk about the ballot, right? And so we're gonna talk, I wanna really take some time to talk on some of the heavy, I would say hot ticket parts of the races. Maybe we'll start with what's going on in Miami-Dade County, actually. So Miami-Dade County, we have for first time ever, right? There are term limits. You got half of the county commission that is up, who will be, and there'll be new people in the commission, new people in their administrations. And so let's talk about that. Christina, do you want to take a stab at what's on the ballot in terms of Miami-Dade County Commission?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, half of the commission is up, and a few folks are, so I would say actually, so a few folks have been in local government that are running for the county commission. So we have past city mayors, past state representatives, and it's a bit confusing, I will say, because a lot of the races have more than 2 candidates. So we're not just talking about picking between A or B. There's like 5 or 6. And there have been a lot of candidate forums that have happened that have really, tried to tackle. I know like the Miami Foundation has been doing some. I know the NAACP has done some, and folks have partnered. There is so we have, like at the Buck Collective, we have a voter guide, and we actually have a link to where you can see all of the past candidate forums if you were like curious about who the candidates were. And then one of the reasons why the county commission in particular is so important is because that is where the resolutions and basically the laws at the county level are started. And so you need at least half of the county commission to vote in favor of something in order for it to make it to the next level as to the mayor's desk. However, we have a strong mayor in Miami-Dade County, unlike in Broward County, which means that the mayor can actually veto what comes out of the county commission. And they are able to oversee way more departments and unilaterally be able to do things. So it is like a true executive seat, and that is also on the ballot this year. So yeah, I think that at the county level, in particular, the mayor's race, the county commission, completely shifting demographics, the state's attorney, which I'm sure we're going to dig into, the property appraiser, which is the first time that there's actually been an opponent for that as well, are all countywide. So you don't have to be registered to a particular political party to vote on those. Non-party affiliation and independent voters can vote and should vote on those, as well as the judges. So just know that if you think, oh, well, it's a primary, so I'm not a Democrat or I'm not a Republican, it doesn't matter. Actually, it really, really does matter, because all of these nonpartisan races are on that ballot.
Hassan, what would you add really quickly? We're going to go deep.
We're talking about the local elections.
Yeah, we're still on Miami-Dade County.
So I kind of want to piggyback off of what she said in terms of, I'm big on let's hold people accountable. We're never here to tell anybody who to vote for, but I am here to say that some of the people on the ballot have records. When it's time to vote, it's cute to vote for who you like, right? But it's important to vote for people who are competent, right? Because these people are making decisions that affect your life, not just today, but they have the potential to affect the life of your kids' kids. How much you pay in your property taxes is extremely important. Trust me, I know. Who makes the decision on, people have to really, really do some research. And it's not hard. You know what I mean? Like, we Google to find out the simplest thing, which restaurant has the best fried chicken, which restaurant has the best fried rice. Like, these are things that affect our lives. And it's important, again, that when we are paying attention to who we are voting for, I like to tell people, we want to be smart about who we put in positions to represent us, right? Because when that person goes and they sit on that county commission, what you are saying to the world, whether you voted for them or not, I'm gonna say that again, whether you voted for them or not, whether you voted for anyone or not, they will still represent you. So it's best that you actually vote for someone. And you want people on those, you want someone sitting on that commission. It is a strong mayor. You want a person who can build relationships. You want a person who has some type of knowledge about how government works. You want people in positions that can help your community, because the assumption is going to be, when that person makes a decision for your community, because that is what they'll be doing, that you're okay with it because you voted them in.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead, Hassan.
No, I was gonna say, so keep that in mind when people say it doesn't matter, because it does matter. Everything Christina said is on point, but I just want to reiterate to people, not voting is still a vote, not participating is still participation. And the people who sit on these county commission seats make decisions for not just the entire county, but they also relegate and bring resources back to your community. So voting based on personality, it's just, our community just is at a different place now. We need real strong substantive politicians to represent us. And I feel passionate about that.
Yeah, and I would say, just to get a little bit more specific, down south, there's County Commissioner Dennis Moss Commissioner Dennis Moss has been in that seat for quite some time, and that is up. Folks who live down south have said historically that they haven't had enough resources go down there. They feel as if all the resources stay where they call the mainland, Maine, Miami. And so here it is, if you're in South Dade, Homestead, Florida City, Naranja, all those parts that you felt as if you haven't necessarily been, you haven't had the resources that you need. Here's an opportunity where there's going to be big changes at the county to vote in your interest. I also want to talk about County Commission C3, that is talking the Miami core, Overtown, Little Haiti, El Portal, that whole area. Again, Commissioner Audrey Edmondson, who was in that seat is up. You have a few contenders. Actually, that race is pretty heavy. You have a few contenders in that seat. Here it is, where some parts of that commission are historically some of the most poor areas in Miami-Dade County. They've had a lot of disinvestment, a lot of gentrification. Again, here's an opportunity, people, to vote people who are in your interest, to think about it, to check the records of the people who are running, to make sure that they're in your best interest. Also, we have the area that covers Miami Beach, Brickell, that commission area. Christina, if you can help me, I don't know the seats. Currently, Commissioner Eileen Higgins is in that. District 5, there's been severe flooding on the beach. There needs something to happen in Brickell. Brickell floods as well. Here it is again, an opportunity for us to think as a community. We can't just be all about talk, right? We gotta be serious about, listen, here are folks that we're gonna put in power to make sure that things can move on for you and your children and their children. And so when you don't vote, we're not trying to hear it, because here's your opportunity right now to get it done. Miami Gardens, we're coming to you on the northern part of the county, right? Miami Gardens right now has another opportunity again, because that seat is up where Commissioner Barbara Jordan is, right? And so folks are vying for that seat as well. Have folks been happy about what they've been seeing in Miami Gardens? Do they want, what kind of commission do they want right now? What do they want for their communities right now? Again, here's your opportunity to say, here's who I want to give my vote to. And not only your vote, you're giving them the power to make decisions on your behalf on the commission.
And
right?
for North and South Dade, there's a lot of those districts are unincorporated, which means they don't have a municipal government that's making the one-to-one relationship with them about police and fire, about zoning, about all of these things. So that those areas of the county, like unincorporated North Dade and unincorporated South Dade, that commissioner is even more powerful and is solely responsible for all of the government services that you're getting on a local level.
And to piggyback on that, South Dade has a huge transportation issue. And they have had that for quite some time. And I know that is, I have friends down there. I have people who are on the ballot down there that it's big for them, it's major. And making sure that's an economic problem, making sure that people can travel effectively from point A to point B to mainland without incurring a heavy cost and the time consuming and taking time away from your family is important. It contributes to quality of life. It contributes to how much money you can make. It contributes to how much time you spend with your children. So these are all factors. These are all things that are determined there at that county commission. If you have people in those seats who will not fight for you, who don't have the capacity to fight for you, right? They may have all great intentions, but capacity, know-how, and knowledge is extremely important. It is a lot of times when I mean, and we're gonna be frank, right? Because we frank. A lot of times we vote, we say, oh, this person thinks they're this person, you feel a kind of way about somebody, but the reality is, get your feelings out of it. Who do you want to make decisions for you and your family? And that's it.
And if I could add
if I could add, when we discuss the capacity, we also have to look at where their funding is coming from as well. So as soon as you see these candidates and they talk a great talk, but they're in the pockets of developers, and what does that mean for affordable housing in Miami-Dade or South Florida? So I see so many time and time again when our communities are crying out for higher wages, affordable housing, access to transportation, it falls on deaf ears. So it's very important when we go out to vote, those issues, you're voting on issues, you're making sure that these people are listening to you, because when they get to the dais, what makes you think that you will have access to them to continue holding them accountable, right? And we can talk about access later on, but we have to make sure when we do vote them in that they stay true to what they said that they were going to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the state attorney. Ooh.
Well,
So, you know, we're coming home, Broward. We're gonna get to you, but I think so. State attorney in Miami-Dade County has been actually quite spicy. So let's talk about that. I'm gonna let the Miami folks take it away. And Christina, can y'all hear Nancy?
if you can speak a little bit louder, but we did hear you.
Okay.
Just like a
Okay,
little.
perfect. So let's take it away for state attorney and what's going on. What should people think about? What has historically gone on with state attorney, specifically because Katya brought up BLM, Black Lives Matter, and y'all want if we want to protest, I'd be on the front lines. I believe in protest, but we're at step 3 right now.
So, and I think there's an added layer of not just BLM, but people are talking about Kamala Harris's record as a district attorney, which is the same as a state's attorney in our case. So again, when we want to say that we want to have progressive state's attorneys or district attorneys, these are the races that you need to be paying attention to, rather than looking back on what somebody's record is. But let's get into the record, because our current state's attorney has been there for 27 years. So there's a long.
Christina, I need you to double back. Like, we're gonna do this like a DJ. Pull up. 27 years.
Right. I'm like, I don't know how old folks are on the line, but that's a big chunk of my life. I'm just saying. So a lot can happen in 27 years, and a lot has happened, which is why this is a really unique opportunity for folks to hold folks accountable. Once you have a record of not doing things, you also have the opportunity to lose your seat. And so when we talk about this, I just wanted to set that up before, Katya and I go into it more, but really, there's a long record of not holding law enforcement accountable. There's a long record of, having unfair charging practices and disparities in charging, disparities in fines and fees, and resistant to bail reform, all these things. So, Katya, any thoughts?
Oh, I am chock full of thoughts. So 27 years, right? So when we're talking about 27 years, we're talking about the countless numbers of people of color who have been abused, murdered, and mistreated by police, and they not be charged with anything. We're talking about politicians who have robbed and stealed from our communities that are not charged with anything. We are talking about people who have relationships with other people for 27 years that have not held their counterparts and their friends accountable. We're talking about charging juveniles for petty crimes, petty thefts. And you have candidates that have very distinct plans, or no plan, I should say, about this. This is when we talk about Black Lives Matter and we talk about criminal justice reform, this is the one seat across the country that everybody should pay attention to in their local governments, right? You should know who your state attorney is, and you should know what they have or have not done. And you have a person who has been the state attorney for 27 years that has been good to some people and has managed to, do the thing that politicians do, but what have they done collectively for a community?
And
how does the community feel? Because how we feel about law enforcement has a lot to do with how accountable this office has held law enforcement in Miami-Dade County. And without being so obvious about how I feel, my question to you is, how do you feel about Miami-Dade County Police in terms of them being held accountable? I have friends and family that are part of Miami-Dade County Police. I want the police to be able to protect and serve me, but I also want police officers who do not protect and serve people who look like me to be held accountable. And who do I believe will do a better job at that?
And I will say I have spent the past 10 years working in the immigration space, and in a county that is 53% foreign born, to have a prosecutor's office that does not look at the immigration consequences of charging our people is like not only irresponsible, it is insulting, because this not only, these are people's lives. So it's not just about being incarcerated, it's also about being deported. It's also about not being able to be eligible for citizenship. It's also about not being able to reunite with your families. So this seat is no joke.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, I would piggyback off of not filing charges and the long-standing consequences of that. It's also about not being able to afford to go to college. It's about making a mistake when you're 16. And if you look a particular way, they look the other way. But if you look like everybody on this Zoom right now, then you don't get the same benefit of the doubt. Then I have a problem with that. I have a problem with the fact that I could have made a mistake at 14 or 15 for something very petty. And because now my family can't afford to upfront my money to go to college, I can't get financial aid. I'm done. What are my options? And not understanding the community, not having empathy enough to say, you know what, let's put in place some other standards. Let's put in place some other ways to talk to our young people, to deal with our young people who may have issues. A kid going into a store and stealing something that costs more than what, $200, we don't know why they're doing that for real. Why do we not look into what caused this? Yes, we recognize that you did this, but what are some programs that we can put in place to help you, as opposed to charging you with something that you then are over $500, or something you then can't make up that. You can't make those losses up.
You know what I would add, and I'm just going to drop it there because that's the kind of person I am. There's been a lot. Like I talked to some of the candidate that's in this race, and some of the feedback has been, and I felt like this about the entire election. There's so many of folks in our community who their need to get access to power will allow for them to endorse and to stand with people who are not for our communities. And so I want to also kind of like name that, not only are y'all I consider y'all to be leaders, but not only are y'all leaders, I don't look out for Santra's interests. Like, you're going to always see Santra on the side of what's right, what's for the community, and that's right. And so I want to kind of talk about, like, what do you say to people and folks who might be in our communities who are not thinking about the Black lives, are not thinking about how this impacts young people, are not thinking about how this impacts immigrants, but are really like, oh, nope, I can't go against this person, or I can't speak out because if I do, then I might not get connection. I might not have that connection anymore. Oh, they've been in this community forever. They have all this long money. They have historical, like, what do we say to that? And how do we combat that in our community? Casa, I see you muting and unmuting.
Or they sponsor a little $500 petty breakfast. Like some of us, we do need to, that means that we need to reevaluate who we're calling community leaders.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like we need to pay attention to who we are designating to speak for us when it comes time to negotiating with people in positions of power. And if a person doesn't speak for the collective and they only speak for us, we have all rights to rid them of that community leader status. Because if we don't stand behind them, then they have nothing.
Absolutely.
So either we voted for you or you say you speak for us, you have to actually represent us. So yeah, no more being bought by sponsoring a breakfast, by sending $1,000 check for a gala. Like we actually have to hold people far more accountable for what they bring to us.
Mm-hmm.
And other communities do a very good job at that. And we're still a growing community. We're still getting this thing together. So I don't want to knock us, you know what I mean? But as we grow, let's start holding our community leaders a lot more accountable.
And I also think some of it is on us as well. Like, do the research. Don't blindly listen to what, you know, a community leader may say. Take that feedback. Like for me, I always get a sense of how are folks feeling, right? But then I also have to see how do folks align with my personal beliefs, right? And how I want to see the community change. And there are a lot of resources out there for you to get that information. And again, the power is given and it is earned. And so what have the folks done for us? What have they done for our community? Because a lot of the problems that we have been around for the past 20, 30 years. So at the same time, a lot of the like old guard leadership, how far have they taken us to blindly, accept what they are putting their stamp on too? So part of it is on us.
Funny enough, I felt Christina struggle a little bit about her choice of words there, and I want to name that because there's a sense of respect and sense of those are my folks that sometimes if we're not careful will hold us hostage and like censor us in our. But I'm talking about my life. I'm talking about the next 10 years. I don't have children right now. In the next 10 years, I may have children. I want to buy, some of us want to buy homes. We want to have things that are affordable. We don't want this area to flood. And so as much as I love you, as much as I respect you, I still got to vote in the best interest of me and for my community. And I think that's really important for us to name. And like, with all due respect, no, thank you. Folks have said to candidates, go talk to the young people. They're willing to go there. We're not willing to jeopardize these relationships. And I'm like, y'all can't. I mean, listen. We're willing to hold up our old friends.
The long game too. Okay, I just want to be on the right side of history.
Absolutely, Nancy. You want to add something?
Yeah. I don't know if are we going up to Broward now, or we're still on Miami-Dade State Attorney?
We're still on Miami-Dade State Attorney. Okay,
so someone had a quick question regarding correlations between imprisoning and charging youth in the 90s and the early 2000s when summer schools were in session in addition to summer jobs first, when those things went away. Is there any statistics? Do you all know? Did things go up? Did things go down? Can anyone touch on that?
I just know that very quickly that during the summer, we generally do see a rise in violence and kids being out of school and there not being activities and also just people being outside. And that's across the country. It's not unique to South Florida or Miami. Generally, that is when we see a rise in gun violence. I don't have the statistics off the top of my head. And there are many, many reasons about that. I don't know, Katya, if you have anything to add about it.
I don't. I wish I would have had that question earlier because I could have found there are tons of studies that do show that there's been an increase in youth juvenile crime because of the lack of summer school, not just in Miami-Dade County, but across the country, not having children in programs and giving them time to do whatever without supervision. We just know that there's a correlation between that and an increase in juvenile crime.
And I would also say it's where people put their money, right? And so I grew up in a generation where we went to summer school, not because you stayed back, not because you were bad, not because you had to, go to remedial classes, because my mama was like, y'all going to school. And actually, we got ahead because of summer school. And so, again, as resources have been changed, like, people take the funding, they do something else with it. All of a sudden, for the last few years, kids don't go to summer school no more. They at the house chilling. And that was just not the generation that I grew up. And it wasn't even a full day of summer school. It was like half a day summer school. We all went. There was breakfast and lunch provided. Like it was never my mom was never like, y'all could stay home. It was like, you're going to summer school. Again, the folks that you have in commission at the state legislation, folks who you have on school board, these are folks who have decision-making power to see what's available. Why should our kids, our students at this time, why should they be home? Why shouldn't they be getting another skill set to make them competitive in this job market? Miami-Dade County and Miami-Dade Public Schools have done a good job in terms of internships, but you want to make sure that it's accessible for everyone. And I'm still a big proponent of summer school, because that summer slide, I'm not about that life.
Yeah, listen, I went to summer school every year. And if I wasn't in summer school, I was shipped off to Haiti to go do and be productive and do something. So you touched on something, and I think we're going to touch on that again, but that's another reminder of be mindful of who you vote for, right? Because not voting, us not participating in the electoral process is what has led to the diminishing of funds for public schools. And these schools can only do the best that they can with what they have. And cutting summer schools seems to have been one of them. But this is where, again, the county commission comes into play, because the county can implement programs. The county can have summer school programs at the different parks that can engage the kids. They can hire tutors. They can have special programming that have STEM research. They can do things with science. They can do things, again, with just agriculture, teaching our children how to grow the food that they eat, teaching our children how to eat healthy. It's important that we know who sits on these county commissions, because that is a place where the county can come in and fill in the gaps, so that we don't have kids sitting at home trying to figure out what to do in the summertime. So everything goes back to making sure that we stay engaged in local elections. So I just wanted to add that to that question about crime and the correlation between idle mind with idle time. We know what that is. That's the devil's playground. So let's make sure we have people in power and positions that understand what that means, and that they do the best that they can to make sure that our children have the resources that they need to be productive.
Absolutely. There have been questions in the chat about the judges. The judges are something that always, I feel like, is the most difficult part of the ballot, is the judges. So many, you don't know how to find their history. So can y'all talk a little bit about the importance of the judges? There are a lot of judges, so we won't be able to cover all of them, but we can definitely tell folks why it's not okay to Christmas tree the judges. Don't Christmas tree. This is not a multiple choice test. Like, you just go A, B. No, you got to make real decisions around the judges, and we'll come to Broward. Go ahead, Christina.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why it is so difficult to find information about the judges, even though they are elected positions, because of ethics rules, and we can get into, whether this actually makes sense or not, they cannot publicly take stances on particular issues because they don't want to be perceived as biased. So they're supposed to be taking each case as it is versus having a fixed mindset on particular issues. However, folks do have an ethical standard and should be compassionate, holistic in their ruling. And so it's been interesting also, as we have this wave of focus on criminal justice reform and on the different parts of the criminal justice system. So we have county judges and we have circuit judges. The circuit judges are the ones that not just deal with civil issues, but also criminal issues and also issues of domestic violence. Whereas the county judges deal with like civil disputes, small claims, and that's like primarily what they do. And so we again see ruling disparities, whether it comes down to a civil issue or a criminal issue. And that's why it's important for judges to actually be on the record about certain things. So I did some interviews in the lead up to this election, and I had an interview with one of the judicial candidates, and you can look at the different bar associations. They generally have candidate forums just for the judges to be able to at least share their philosophy. If you also go to vote411.org, it's a voter guide that the League of Women Voters does nationally. So actually, no matter where you are, you should use that tool. And they send a candidate survey to the judges to see what their judicial philosophy is, like what are judges they admire, and so you can get more of a sense. I wouldn't strictly look at appointments. So we're one of the few states where judges are elected positions rather than just being appointed by a governor or the executive branch. And what happens is that when there is a vacancy, because folks retire, that slot opens up. And if it's near a ballot, if it's near an election date, we get to vote on the replacement. In the interim, the governor gets to appoint somebody to fill that in, and they generally look at the composition of like the community, the jurisdiction, to select somebody. So don't automatically think that just because so-and-so appointed this judge that they're ideologically aligned, because actually they're not allowed to do that. I mean, it happens, but not as much as like with the Supreme Court or anything like that.
Kasia, do you want to add anything about the judges?
Yeah, I have to be honest at this. I lean on my attorney friends when it comes to judges because they have direct interaction with these judges, so they can tell me if they're fair, if they're not fair. But I can give a very brief story why it's important on who we vote for, especially for county judges. My father had a civil case, and I went to court with him, and the way that this judge treated us, because of course I sat there, I said nothing. I didn't speak. I let my father speak. He speaks with a heavy accent. He's Mr. IET. The attorney, the attorney for the opposing counsel wasn't there. They didn't have all their documents in place, but they were given all of the rights that you would. They called the attorney. They made the attorney email information. Oh, we must have had it and we lost it. I had never felt so bamboozled before. So I let all of it go by. And then I started asking questions. And it isn't until I started asking questions, they started backpedaling. We have to make sure, especially for us who have immigrant parents that end up in court for simple things like insurance and having to deal with HOAs, that there are judges in place that are sensitive to our communities, that will not run over our parents, that will not run over our grandparents, that will not take advantage of the fact that many of us do not know what we're doing. I, of course, did my due diligence. I filed a complaint against her. I made it very clear to her that I was not the one. And she actually, in fact, had tried to bamboozle the wrong Haitian man. But we just have to be aware of who is sitting on these benches. So that's all I can say is, honestly, we have no idea what's going on. And because in order for them to get elected, they have to run campaigns. Who's cutting them checks? They're not accountable to us. Once they're there, and we have to do what they tell us to do, right? Like once they make a judgment, we're held to that judgment. But they see the attorneys in these law firms cut them major checks because they want that type of situation to happen, right? They want the friendliness of the judge. They want the judge to overlook mistakes that they make. They want the judge to rule in their favor. They want the judge to be friendlier to them. So it's important that we vote for judges, or at least try to find out as much as possible what judges are fair. And I think they are, to me, the most difficult to find out about. There should, Sandra, maybe you and Nancy and Christina can start a new organization of holding judges accountable. What are they actually doing? How can we as a community come together and hold judges accountable? Because I feel very strongly that they are out there doing whatever and no one can do anything.
I think you named some amazing things, Kasia. Can you hear me? I'm gonna mute Christina. All right, can you hear me? Perfect. Christina, you're breaking up a little bit, so I'll have you come in after. So vote 411. You can find more information about the candidates for judge. There's also been a lot of candidate forums that have also spoke to judges. I think Kasia nailed it. Some folks, even in their tone and the way they answer questions, specific questions, the irritation, you can kind of sense that kind of privilege. Who do you think you are that you got to ask me these kinds of questions? And so all of these things we should really dig a little bit deeper into as it relates to judges. I would also say not only check in who's donating to them, we forget how much social capital we have. And that's one of my biggest concerns with our community, in the Haitian community. You may not know an attorney, but you know somebody who knows an attorney. You may not know somebody who's in this political space, but you know somebody who knows somebody. Ask your people. Ask your people, who do they know? Do they know judges? Do you know any attorneys who goes before these judges, so that you can get a sense of who's fair and who's unfair? Also, you know, the Vote 411 and all these other websites, they can help break down, listen to these candidate forums, these judge forums, so that you can get a sense of what they're talking about and also what they're not talking about. If judges are not talking about unfair sentences, y'all, what are we doing, right? And so making sure that if they're not naming the issues we know exist in our communities, then maybe that's not the judge for you. Okay, so we lost Christina. You ready?
I'm back. Yes, I was gonna say two things. So there is a website called Judicial Watch, and they look at varying levels of judges. And then also, so it's a website, and they also have like a Twitter, and like they have social media. And then look at, just like any other candidate that's running, folks do get endorsed. So look at their endorsements, because that says a lot about how they are aligned.
We're gonna cover Broward a little bit. In Broward, the spicy races are sheriff. Ooh, that sheriff race. And I want you to know that sheriff race is coming on after Parkland. And so we all know what happened with Sheriff Israel. There was a Black sheriff that was instated by the governor. All of that is coming into play right now in Broward County. So that's a very, very spicy race. There's also the public defender race, as well as the state attorney race. That is, lots of folks running. But again, we will say in this, and what we know is happening right now in this country, those are really, really important races, specifically as it relates to our criminal justice system. Nancy, do you also want to add? I think you should use my mic.
We should also talk about the public defender race. I think that's super important as well. And also chime in on like representation. When we talk about all these races, especially historically, this is the first time in Broward's history where all of these seats have been open at the same time. And when we talk about our state attorney's race, Michael Stacks has been in his seat for 44 years. You said 27, 44 years. I'm not gonna put my mom's age out there, but I'm saying that's a long, long time. And this is the first time in Broward County where we can really make some changes, right? And so it's so imperative that not only do we vote, but we do our research to make sure that we're putting the right person in this seat, not someone who's going to do exactly what he did for another 44 years, but someone who's really trying to implement some changes in this office and be a little bit more innovative and really talk about how we reimagine public safety, how we reimagine criminal justice, and what that looks like in Broward County.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that we want to add for Broward? Again, Broward County, and I want to say Dade County. We're talking about folks. These are historic roles, historic races. Let's get it done. We know sometimes they count on us to carry the state. So the vibe that we're feeling, if we're not excited here, then I'm really concerned for the rest of the state. And Florida has had some concerns. This is a huge election year because not only are there so many seats that are open that haven't been open in such a long time, is also these are folks who will have to make decisions about what happens with the budget, where the cuts are going to happen. So you want to make sure you got people who we can trust, who we believe, who have a track record of making sure that they put community first.
We can't forget supervisors of elections.
Oh yes, Broward County supervisor of election. So in Broward County, the supervisor of election is elected. I don't believe that's the truth for Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County, I believe, is appointed. And so, yeah, Broward County, we made national news we've been making actually national news for quite some time around voting. And so right now we're going to be voting a supervisor of election, and we want to consider folks who understand what the role is, make sure that they can actually do the job, understand technology, understand hacking, right? Understands what it means to not only, because there's a lot of voter suppression that can happen with the supervisor of election as well. So we want to make sure that we have somebody who doesn't want to suppress our vote in our county. Is there anything else, Nancy, you would add?
I also want to add our municipal races that some folks tend to forget about. Our school board races are super important. I know after as you all mentioned earlier, we talked about summer school. I actually want to know what happened to summer school. We pay taxes. I want to know why our millage taxes aren't going more towards either increasing the salary of our teachers, making sure that they're happy, that they want to continue teaching our children. Second, making sure that our facilities are up to code. I've heard schools having mold in them. I've heard that the lack of not only resources, but the lack of materials for our students, right? And so if we want our kids to be ahead, to really be competitive in this very competitive world, we want to make sure that we are giving them all the tools to be successful. Broward County is what, the 9th largest school district in the nation. And why are we at 47 in education wise? Like, it makes no sense to me. So it is important that we put people in those seats, not only are putting the best interests of our students first, but also our teachers and staff members, because we are counting on them to make sure that our kids are safe, that they are getting what they need to be successful.
Absolutely. So we talked a lot about the roles. I want to kind of cover them really quickly before we go into some of the trickery that we know is going to happen. So we covered state attorney in Broward and in Dade County. We covered mayor in Miami-Dade County. We covered that there's so many seats that are up, and for the first time in quite some time in Miami-Dade County, there will be a change on the commission. So do the right thing, vote in your best interest, in your community's best interest. We also talked about property appraiser. I learned so much because Christina did she held a forum to talk more about the property appraiser in Broward County, supervisor of elections. We have school board in Dade County as well. We also have the state attorney in Broward County that's up. We have the sheriff, hot race. So making sure that folks look, you want to be in the mix. You want your voice to be heard, your vote to be counted, or you won't have anything to say because you didn't do your part. So, okay. Folks might have missed early voting. Here it is, election day. What should people be ready for on election day in Florida? We know it's a pandemic, so we don't know what folks can expect. I went ahead and brought my mail-in ballot to the early voting site. Watch it go. It went into the box. I went home, checked to see if it was counted. I'm counted. I'm good. But if you didn't do all of that on election day, what should folks expect? I'll start with you, Katya.
Folks should, first of all, have your picture ID with you when you go to vote. If you don't know where your precinct is, you can go to Miami-Dade County elections website or the Broward County elections website, and you can put your address or your information in there, and it'll tell you where you can vote. If you still have that ballot in Miami-Dade County, I know for a fact that there are 4 locations where you can drop them off. Let me actually just give this information out since you can drop them off at the elections department, or you can drop them off at the Stephen P. Clark Center, which is downtown Government Center. You can drop it off at the North Dade Regional Library. That's the library in Miami Gardens and on 183rd off of 27th Avenue. Or you can drop it off in South Dade Regional Library. That's off Southwest 211th Street. So if you still have your ballot, your mail-in ballot, and you want to in Miami-Dade County, drop them off as opposed to going to your election site. Those are the only 4 places you can drop it off now. So that's important for people to know. And the other thing that I want folks to know is please don't forget your ID at home. You know, especially my young folks, I know how y'all get. I know how they get discouraged. Like, oh, I went, they didn't let me vote, so I left. No. Just have your ID, go vote. And I'm asking everybody on election day, even if you have already voted, get 5 people to vote. If we can all commit to getting 5 people to vote, check on 5 people to see if they voted. If they say they're voted, man, ask them for that. Where's your sticker? Did you take a picture of your sticker? Let me see it. You and your crew need to make sure that you vote. As for me and my household, we vote. You know what I mean? We serve the Lord, we vote, we pay taxes, and we participate in our success. But it's important that everybody, it's no longer just about us making sure that we vote. I think come election day, it's important to just shoot a text message. We share memes, we share jokes, we share tea, we share gossip, we share a good Christian word, we share word of the day, inspirational quotes, whatever it is. But just, hey, a reminder, a person may have just needed a nudge. If people get caught up in their day-to-day lives, and because we're so engaged in it, we live in our bubbles, it's super important to us. We don't realize that sometimes people just forget. They're not tuned in. They're not on Facebook. They're not watching the news. So they may forget. I will give people the benefit of the doubt. Let's just remind them, a gentle nudge. Go vote, sis. Go vote, bruh. So that's what I want people to be ready for. Did we talk about those, Sandra, our legislative races yet?
Oh, we did not. Take it there. How are we going to forget them?
There are a lot of them.
we'll wrap up with that. I want us to still to kind of stay on topic in terms of making sure people know what to be prepared for on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Oh, and get in line by 7:00.
Yes, and stay in line. If you were online and then 7:00 passes, you still get to vote. Also, bring your own pen. If you, COVID is still out there, right? So bring your own pen, wear a mask, hand sanitizer, and all else fails, you still get your provisional ballot. Like, no matter what, you are entitled to a provisional ballot. And the ID has to have your signature on it as well. So that's why it's like a license. If you have like Bank of America, I know like they accept like your debit card that has your picture on it because it also has your signature on it. So definitely be prepared and ask questions if something doesn't sound right. If it doesn't smell right, doesn't sound right, definitely ask questions, ask to speak to the precinct captain. Again, this is your right.
Right. And there are voter protection people who should be at every precinct. If anything happens and you can't vote, or they feel it, if they're telling you that you can't vote, please talk to the voter protection people who will be at your precinct. And I'm also going to say we're always asking for folks, especially in well, all of us are Haitian on this live video today. In the cities or the precincts where there's a huge Haitian demographic, we're always looking for people to go out there and make sure that you can help your mom, T-mummies, T-poppies, because some of them have language barriers and they need to know in Haitian Creole what's going on. Some of their signatures are not as sharp as they used to be. So their assistance, and look, T-mummy, you can't change your signature right now. Sign it like it's on your card. All that if you can help on election day, that kind of help will really be helpful. And I'm talking about North Miami, I'm talking about North Miami Beach and Broward, we're talking about Fort Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderhill, Tamarack, Coral Springs, all those areas have a large Haitian demographic. Want to make sure that that we got them covered, but as well as, pointing them to folks, making sure that you're available. If you have any difficulties, call us up so that we can make sure we can walk you through that. I will also say, stay in the line. My experience in 2018 at the Lemon City Library was hundreds of Haitian grandmas coming off the bus to vote at Lemon City Library, and that precinct was closed that day. My God, it was election day. And so we were turning folks around, giving them rides, trying to find what precinct they had to be at. So we know that with Corona, there might be precinct changes last minute. There might be change, they may not have enough supplies. So we got to be on our P's and Q's to make sure that we can get people to where they need to be at last minute. And it's going to be even harder because in 2018, we weren't dealing with Corona. It was nothing for me to be like, hey, let me give you a ride. There were folks who were discouraged because they got off the bus. They had their uniforms on. They were just coming from work. But make sure that, to me, that's the trickery. I don't know why you can't vote at any precinct in a county that you live in, but we won't go there today. But it can be very difficult for people if there's last minute changes. So stay on it. Make sure you check the Supervisor of Elections website to ensure that your precinct, what it was in 2018, is the same one, because often it changes.
And if I could add one more thing, if you have a vote by mail ballot now, it's too late to mail it in. So we're encouraging you to go and drop it off. Right. With that being said, if you submitted a vote by mail ballot, you should check it online to make sure that it was counted. And if it was not counted, I encourage you to go to your precinct and go vote.
I want to add to Nancy's. I want to shout out, I'm forever Blackity Black. I'm also Haitian, and Haitian communities vote. We're some of the most busiest precincts in the county, in Broward County. Haitian people believe in politics. And so I want to make sure Sandy is telling us that if you have the day off, I'm with the Miami Worker Center. Miami Worker Center staff, we can't endorse candidates, but I'm challenging all of my staff, the day is off, to ensure that they can help with voter protection on election day. If you're off and you can lend an hour or two to make sure that people feel protected and their vote is not being suppressed. And if you have another language that you can help assist people in their native language to go through this process, the voting process, that would really, really, really be helpful. And that's any of your precincts. Maybe it's your precinct. Maybe it's a precinct that folks look like you and speak like you. If you can do that, do that. And if you can't do any of it, we're gonna go back to Katya. Text, call 10 of your friends. We want to see them stickers on election day. Let me see what we did not cover. Vote the entire ballot from top to bottom.
Yes.
No Christmas tree. Know what you're going in to do. Like, right? Top to bottom. And so making sure you know all the stuff, especially on the judges. Do your research, vote 411. They'll give you a sample ballot so you can know everything. Take a screenshot, take a picture so you can know what you're gonna be bubbling for everything that's on the ballot. Don't go into the voting booth shocked at all the stuff that's on your ballot. You're like, wait a minute, what happened? So I want to make sure that y'all are ready. Vote 411 will help you with the entire, they'll let you know what is going to be on your ballot. And I'll pause there. Any other things in terms of trickery that we want to address before we go back to state legislature?
You can also print your sample ballot online. So you can just fill that in, bring it with you, use it as a cheat sheet, and then keep it moving.
Nobody ain't got no ink in their printers though. So take a picture with your phone. If you got ink, you ain't got no printer paper. So, so make sure you take a picture of your ballot, write down the names, take a picture, something, so you're ready when you get there.
I'd like to add, if you feel strongly about anybody on the ballot or anyone you know for a fact that you can vouch for, send that to your friends too. Hey, look, I've encountered this person. I had a problem. This person helped me with it. Vote for this person when you go vote. That's a gentle reminder to go vote. It's a way of telling your friends, please participate, without pointing fingers and saying you need to do this or you need to do that. We need to make, again, voting as important as we make tweeting, as important as we make posting and liking stuff. Like I'm getting to the point where you can't be a part of my circle, my social circle, my friendship circle, or anything if you don't vote, because your lack of participation is having a negative impact on my life. And I'm beating this like a drum. We have to make sure that people in our circles are voting. It ain't just us. Everybody here woke. You know what I mean? Like, and most of the people we communicate with on a daily basis are, but what about the outliers, right? Just shoot a text. It's very simple. Let's just commit to getting 5 people who we don't think would have voted to vote.
You know what I like to say, Cassie? I like to say, think about your high school friends.
Right.
Who you go to high school with, who may have taken a different route than you have, that you still cool with. You see their stuff on social media. Text them, check in with them. Hey, look, we haven't talked in a while. I also want to make sure you voted. You know, it's a crucial time. Check in with your high school friends, people you grew up with. These are the people that I think are not always in our professional circles in that kind of way all the time. But these are folks that you still cool with. You know, I tell folks, I'm here for the community. I got all kinds of friends. And some folks not into politics like that. These are the ones I'm going to be like, look, here's the entire slate from my opinion, from my humble opinion, that I think make it easy for you. Take this if you want it, but let's get it done. But some folks need that, to what Katya said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you never know how people see you. And you have no idea how you can influence a person. So shooting the text is a reminder that I see you. I know you're there. I'm here for you. Hey, let's go vote.
Absolutely. So I think we covered a lot of ground. I'm looking at the time, we're at 7:05. We got 2 main issues. We want to talk about the state legislature, and we're going to come back to the president stuff.
Oh, I'm ready to get into this Black girl magic.
Yes.
You know, you all know how I feel about making sure that people stay engaged in Tallahassee politics. The decisions that are made in Tallahassee affect us every time we leave our houses. Every time you turn on the lights, every time you get a light bill, every time you go to the grocery store, these are things that affect you on a regular basis. And Tallahassee has a unique situation where for many years now it's been pretty much ran by Republicans, and a lot of even something as simple as, I'm going to tie it back to Black Lives Matter, something as simple as stand your ground. You have legislators that have literally staked it, will lay on the night, and they will not change that.
What is stand your ground?
So stand your ground is a law that says that if I feel like my life is in danger, even if I initiated a confrontation, if in that confrontation I murder you, I'm good.
Trayvon Martin, right?
because I felt like my life was in danger. This is what allowed George Zimmerman to be acquitted of Trayvon Martin, because they instilled, let's not say acquitted. Let me go back a little bit. This is what allowed him to not spend a night in jail the day he murdered that young man. So all of us who feel a particular way about vigilante white folks with guns, I have no issue saying that. The reason that they feel emboldened in that way is because they know that these laws exist and they know that they exist to protect them. So when we feel strongly about these laws, again, when we marching up and down the street, tramping up and down like somebody stole our bike, quoting my favorite movie. If you didn't vote and you don't know who your state legislature is, this is what affects that. When we're talking about educational budgets, this is what affects that. When you're talking about FPL's right to raise or lower your light bill at their whim, this is what we are talking about. When you're talking about conservation, when we're talking about pollution, when we're talking about making sure that we have clean air, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about funding nonprofits that do good work in communities. This is where all of that happens. When you're talking about how many days we have to vote, those are decisions that are made in Tallahassee. And when we don't pay attention to those decisions, we end up like, oh, this person is in charge. I think there does have to be an education and understanding what decisions are local, what decisions are state, and what decisions are federal.
And I would say in the time of Corona, we do not know the long-term health impacts of folks who have tested positive for coronavirus, whether they're symptomatic or not. And we are a state that has refused to expand Medicaid time and time again. And who makes that decision? Folks in Tallahassee. So it's not just the testing. It's not just whether the cost is going to be covered for free or not if you do end up getting hospitalized. We're talking about long-term healthcare access is important now more than ever, as hundreds of thousands of people get this virus, if not millions, right?
And a state legislature that won't expand Medicaid,
right?
In the state of Florida. And if each of us ensured that 5 people voted, the Democratic nominee for governor lost by 30,000 votes. Let that sit in your spirit. What we are dealing with in the state of Florida with the governor who refuses to acknowledge the real implications of COVID, who refuses to make sure that we protect our children, who refuses to acknowledge Black Lives Matter, who absolutely has done nothing to improve the unemployment issue that we have. Folks in Florida make $200-something a week in unemployment. How exactly, if you are in a time of need, does the state of Florida expect for you to survive off of that? They don't. And even to get that $200, what you have to go through, it's a system that doesn't work because it was a system created by people who did not want it to work. And a governor who still has not fixed that problem. And we have been dealing with this since March. So when you have a legislature that continues to condone the acts of a governor, that co-signs on those things, people know who your state representatives are. Know who most importantly, I'm biased. There are 40 state senators. They have far more power than the state representatives. I'm not saying it to be shady. I'm saying it to be real. Know who they are. Know who, in Miami Gardens, I don't even want to say Miami Gardens, you have in North Dade, there's going to be an election for a new state senator. South Dade, there's elections for a new state senator. In Broward County, you get to choose if you want to re-elect the state senator that's there already. Up and down the state of Florida, you have state senators that are running, and some of these people are doing really good jobs. And because they're doing a good job, you have people attacking them, going for them. We have to make sure that when in Tallahassee, when people do not think that they are being seen and they do not believe that people will hold them accountable, the mess that they are able to get away with, I think it's time that we as a community come together and say, no more. We are going to pay attention to who we send to represent us in Tallahassee, even if it is 600 to 700 miles away. We're watching you. So that's my spiel on the legislature and making sure that we advocate for people who advocate for us and not just people who advocate for whomever was able to cut them a check.
I want to name a few people, and I want to be, and I'm so not biased, but I know there are few. I am biased, but I'm not trying to be shady. I just want to folks to think about these districts. So, currently Chevron Jones, state rep. He's going for state senate right now. So that areas encompasses areas in Miramar. So it's like a mix between Miami Gardens.
North Dade, it encompasses all, it's North Dade, Opelika, all of Miami Gardens, and parts of South Broward, parts of Miramar, Pembroke Pines, and West Park and Pembroke Park.
And so that's a race that's heavy.
That's heavy.
Oh yeah.
That's a heavy race.
Representative Donnie Joseph.
When you look at that race, it seems heavy, but that race is, when you clear the fog, they're really only, it makes it easier for if you're looking at experience and the ability to represent a community. I don't think it's that heavy.
But I think that's from your lens, because I think that's the way you think. And I just want to name that. I think that's the way I think. Like, I love you. You could be my friend. Let's talk about, I'm all about putting my friends in positions, recommending them for things they're good at. Y'all don't recommend Sandra to do anything artistic because I'm not your girl. I can't do it. My mom was like, you gonna go get this this MD, and anything artistic, you sick. You can't go to school on those days. So anything, I'm joking, but
we're majoring in anything besides being a lawyer and a doctor.
Anything artistic, don't recommend me for that, right? In the same way, there are people who are ready day one to be in these positions, and they're gonna hold the community down, and they're gonna be able to think and lead in these crucial times. Because it's easy to be a leader when all things are good. But honey, we in the middle of a pandemic. We need people who got some ideas on how we gonna balance this budget, how we gonna get people who haven't been working for 6 months, how we gonna get them up to speed. And so we know right now, in Tallahassee specifically, I want to name these stuff, the eviction moratorium, right? So the governor, after pressure from community-based organizations every month, we're begging him to not evict people during this pandemic, knowing that, most of Florida is based on tourism, and these people haven't been to work. Wow. And I want to say this, big businesses have been getting millions, if not billions. And so we again want to talk about, these are the folks in Tallahassee that makes these decisions. To Cassia's point again about unemployment, I don't know how many of y'all could build a website that don't work and just have it not work forever.
And it costs millions of dollars to create. And then they invested another 20 some odd million dollars to try to fix the millions of dollars that they created a system deliberately to not work.
And I'm trying to tell y'all, at some point, y'all just don't want it to work. And that's where we are.
Not at some point. Let's call a spade, Sandra. It was created to not work. It was created to make it difficult for people to file for unemployment so that the Florida unemployment numbers could stay low and we could have a governor that was for jobs.
2 points. I want to come back to your 30,000 because some people think 30,000, big number. That's a lot of people. More than 30,000 people go to the University of Florida, y'all. Just more than 30,000 people might be at FIU, right? So we're not talking about a lot of numbers. It might look like a big number to us, but 30,000 people it's not that. It's like, we should have got that done. That's to the point about losing the governor race to 30,000. The second point, we talk about all these millions of dollars that agencies, big businesses have gotten. We also talk about the unemployment system that's still not working after millions of dollars have been spent on it. That's our money. I just want to put that there. That's our money. That's our tax dollars. That's our money that's being spent, given to big businesses, being spent on websites that don't work, that they don't want to work. Again, we want to make sure that folks know this is not out the blue money. It's our money that while people need 6 months of rent, that we ain't got one program that's saying, look, we're going to help you get up. We're going to help you get back on track. Because the financial aid, folks, really quick, sorry, Christina, the financial counsel is not financial aid. Anybody you talk to, they say you should have 3 to 6 months saved up. We are at month 6. So if anybody had things saved up, it's gone. And so what are the programs for them right now? And those are the decisions we want the state representatives, your state senator, those are the decisions that they're going to be making. come time to go to Tallahassee during this budget time that's going to happen. Go ahead, Christina.
And unemployment money is your money. It is not a benefit. You pay, that's that FICA money that comes out of your paycheck every time you get paid. This is something that you are paying into and you're asking for your money back. And so this notion that they're doing you a favor by giving you unemployment benefits is completely wrong. That's your money that you're getting back that you've been paying into should an emergency like this happen.
Kasia.
Oh, I was literally gonna say what Christina just said. So
It's so frustrating because I'm just like, they're not doing you a favor. They're screwing you out of your own money.
And to be clear, because we have had such a rough year in terms of not having a tax base, not having people come visit Florida, this is going to be probably the hardest budget we've ever had to deal with in Tallahassee. So if you don't have people there fighting, because we'll be fighting for crumbs, if you don't have people there fighting for you, then I'm petrified at what this budget is going to look like. And something else that's important about the governor, I hate going back to that because that's not actually on the ballot right now, but I just want to talk about the importance of folks who didn't vote. If the governor thought that this was important enough, then the governor could then go to the president and put pressure on the president about making banks have not forbearance, because once that period is done, a person then has to pay all of it. If I don't have a job for 6 months or 90 days is what they're giving people. If I don't have a job at the end of 90 days, I can't have all of your money. And that's the only thing that these banks are allowing. So if the banks, if we don't have a federal government, we don't have a governor that puts pressure on the federal government to fight for us, then you also have, if I'm living in an apartment and I can't be evicted, what does that matter if it gets foreclosed?
Right.
These are issues that have layers. These are complex issues that require folks who have empathy for the residents of the state of Florida in order for them to have full understanding. Like you can't just say, and no one should be evicted, but what does it matter if you can't be evicted, but then you're foreclosed on? Everyone in this system has to actually be protected in order for this to work. So that to me is where the legislature comes into place. That to me is where your governor comes into place, because they should work together for the people of Florida to put pressure on banks to protect property owners, so that then that protection from the property owner can trickle down to the person who is renting from that property owner.
Absolutely. We have about 10 more minutes because I want to keep us at 90 minutes. This has been such a great conversation. Right before we get to the spiciest of the spicy, I want to talk about really quick census, y'all. We've been begging since last year, begging for y'all to get your money back, begging for you to get your money back to your communities. Let's get it done. I'm gonna turn to Kasia. I don't know if y'all got any other liners.
Okay, I feel like I've talked a bunch, but let's get it done now. We have had an extended period of time for self-response. This is the most that we've ever gotten. They gave it to us due to COVID. Listen, you put into the system, you're not gonna get it back out if you're not counted. And there are people who don't want you to be counted. If for no other reason but to be a pest, be counted. If for no other reason but to get your fair share of the resources, be counted. I want you to treat being counted just like we're treating getting people to go vote. my2020census.gov. Go, it takes 5 minutes, people. Let's get counted. We do not want a situation where, let me back up. You got one shot to do it too. There is no retake. There is no, oh, well, I'll do it next year. They do this every 10 years. And the numbers that we are stuck with at the end of this cycle, that's all you got. Head Starts. Resources, when it's hurricane season, when they send out water and then the federal government sends out resources because we've had a hurricane, they use census numbers for that. When nonprofits are looking to get funding, they only use census numbers to account for the population. They don't use, oh, we think we have 100,000 people in Miami-Dade County that have kids under the age of 3 years old who may need assistance. You can think that all you want, but if the numbers don't support the need, you're not going to get the resources that you need. Like, we have beat this drum. If you haven't heard it, I'm gonna keep it simple. Go to my2020census.gov and go get counted right now. You and everybody in your household. If you feel like you forgot somebody and you didn't understand that you can report everybody, go back and do that now. It will allow you to add people to your household. If you think that this is going to be something where they can come back and be like, oh, the government's in my business, this has absolutely nothing to do with police. It has absolutely nothing to do with ICE. With our Haitian community, I know some of us have a fear of government. It is imperative that we get counted. It does not matter how you got here. If you swam, if you hopped, if you flew, if you close your eyes and transcended into the United States, no one cares. We just want to make sure that you get counted. If you know your grandma didn't get counted, please count them. If your mama has an efficiency and you know she didn't count the person in the garage, make sure that that person gets counted, because every living person breathing on this United States soil needs to be counted, because we all use the resources. Communities like Weston, they are counted, baby. They are counted. They make sure they're counted. They don't have any issues making sure that they get their fair share of the taxes. Like, why do our communities look blighted? Because we're not counted. We don't get as much resources. All of this has an effect when people are making decisions about how much money to spend, how much money to send for education, how much money to put towards healthcare. Again, Christina said something super crucial about COVID. We have no idea what the future health implications of this are going to be. We want to make sure that they know how many people live in our communities in case that there is a time we're going to need more healthcare resources. You know what I mean? So people, like, I know this sounds kind of like mommy-ish or teacher-ish. Let's just get counted, man. It takes 5 minutes.
And if you don't want anybody to knock on your door, do it already, because they're
knocking on your door.
They're coming to knock on your door to make sure that you filled it out. So
Yep.
Just do it.
I just don't, I wish I understood, because I'm like, I'm into like behavior, like what makes people move, what makes people not move. And I'm just like, I don't know, like, just anyway, just do it really quick. We got to talk about presidential, because here we are. We are at Tuesday. Tuesday is our last chance at the local level. And honey, Floridians, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot. We're getting it at the local level, at the state level, and we've been feeling some kind of way. I can't speak, we're not a monolithic community, but I've been feeling a lot. So here it is. There's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of excitement. There's also been a lot of, people not excited about the pick. What are some of your thoughts? How do we continue to make people engaged? There's been talk about not voting because we're not happy with the candidate. What would y'all say?
I have lots of thoughts, but I want to say that it is okay to feel your feelings. It's been a week, right? Like, this also has felt like the longest presidential election in like history, between the primaries to like get us to this point. I also feel like, I know we're tired of hearing the word unprecedented, but we are in a time, y'all, between COVID, between environmental disaster, between like budget crisis, unemployment, all of the things, and the status quo isn't working. The status quo is working for a very, very small amount of people. And even the folks who aren't complaining about the status quo right now, they're still being negatively impacted, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. So if you are tired of what's going on right now, the option to not vote is not real. Because like this, particularly in this case, and I understand the not wanting to vote or not liking the candidate, and I have a critique of Kamala Harris, but I also understand why people are excited. I am one of the conflicted folks, but leaving it blank, or a vote, or voting for writing in another, Yang. I have a cousin who was like, I'm gonna write in Yang, and I'm like, this is not like you are throwing away your vote, and it is a vote for Donald Trump. It's like really plain and simple. It's a vote for the status quo of the mismanagement of this crisis, and that's really the decision that you're making.
I said, what would you add?
Oh man, I have been a little bit extra on the social media about this, but I'm gonna keep this cute.
That's why I called you.
I'm gonna keep this real cute. We got two choices. So this delusion of all of these independent candidates, and I have no issues with independent candidates, but I do want people to spread truth. We live in a predominantly two-party system, and if you wanted someone else, then you should. He gets to pick who the VP is, and if you don't like Biden either, whoever you like didn't win, and you didn't promote them enough to win, or you didn't do what it takes to win. I don't agree with this waking up and we are going to, first and foremost, we are never going to bash a Black woman. That's first and foremost. That will never be tolerated. But it's two choices. You know what I mean? Like, why are we playing games? It's two choices, and one of the choices called Haiti a shithole country. So you can say whatever you want, but we're not going to turn a blind eye to that because you have feelings about people. I'm talking straight facts. Yes, there are people who do not like Kamala Harris. They feel a way about her record as a state attorney in California. You're entitled to that. I have absolutely no problem with that. But spreading this rhetoric, knowing that rhetoric will lead to people not participating in the electoral process, is a problem. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a problem when you have a president that does not want to talk about COVID. It is a problem when you have a president who, and I'm never going to get over it, call my country, where my parents came from, a shithole country. So
Wait, Katya. Because when he said shithole country, he basically called us pieces of shit.
We be too.
That's not too big.
That's what we want. I kind of switch languages on you. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Like, so if for no other reason to participate, and that's just me and my personal feeling, that's how Katya Simpler feels about it. But let's call a spade a spade. I'm not about to color the sky orange because you don't like the color blue. You got two choices, and those are the only two choices that you have. Having an issue with Kamala Harris is perfectly okay with me, but some independent person and not voting is not a choice. If you don't like Donald Trump and you don't like Kamala Harris, I saw someone posted, oh, so we get to pick who runs the plantation. You absolutely do get to pick.
You on a plantation.
You want to call it a plantation? Hallelujah, I'm happy for you. But you absolutely do get to pick. What you don't get to do, though, is not vote. What you don't, and I don't care who you vote for. What you don't get to do is not vote and then have all of these opinions. Vote.
I know Nancy's going to chime in, but funny enough, it brings me back to Christina and her hesitation, because I'm also in a new role. Christina's in a role. But I'm like, this is what this generation is going to do. We're going to have hard conversations publicly, and we're going to be like, we're not going to be censored on our time, on our Sunday evening at 6 p.m., not on anybody's dollar in my house. So what I'll say is two things. I think that when I think about Sandra, oftentimes we don't think about ourselves when we think about candidates. I wasn't always here. And even still, there's still a lot of things that I'm still working on in terms of my ideology, right? And I think that if there's anyone I believe that can be pushed in their ideology to do things right, ain't nobody I trust more than a Black woman. I grew up with, and this is why I shared my story on Facebook. I grew up with a mom, and often I sit back and I think about what she made happen. Nobody I trust more than a Black woman to fix us right now.
Nobody.
Like even in her, when she cross-examined, and maybe it's not cross-examined, but when she had to cross-examine Kavanaugh, there's no one I trust more at this point. And I'm not saying that means that we get to not talk about her record. I will be shocked as a Black woman if she does not address it. I think she will. I hope she will. And even if she doesn't, I still have two choices.
Absolutely.
I still have only two choices in this America right now. If we want to talk about a 3-party system or a 4-party system, we get so mad as Haitians because Haiti has 50 parties. If y'all want a 50-party system, I don't know what y'all want right now. But it is 2020 right now, and it is August. We
Absolutely.
need 5.25 if we're gonna get it done. And guess what? We didn't do that work 2 years ago for a third party, for a fourth party. We don't even have a strong third candidate right now, third party candidate right now. We're in August. And so to me, and I'm not trying to tell people you are definitely entitled to your feelings. I just want to say I'm gonna be real, I'm going to be really respectful, but also I'm going to own that Santra has a platform. And as much as I think I'm only talking to me and my friends, I also have influence. And I got to be very careful with the influence that I have. Because when Santra says this is who she's with, unfortunately and unfortunately, there are hundreds of people who I've mentored, who are on my social media, who listens. And so I think we got to be very careful with this not voting business, because we have a lot of influence. And truth of the matter is, many of us will vote if we can vote. And don't listen to the people who can't vote, who's like they're not voting, because you can't vote anyway.
I'll piggyback on what you just said. There's a responsibility that comes with having a platform. There's a responsibility that comes with saying, I speak for a community, I fight for a community. We know that those people vote, but like you said, the people who follow them may not understand that. You can't rile people up and then be like, okay, don't forget to go vote. It doesn't work that way. You can't have them disengaged and disenchanted about what's happening. There's a way to communicate, I'm not happy about this or that, but like there is no one I'd rather stand for me than a Black woman. There's an intersectionality of being a woman, of being from a minority community on top of a minority community. For Christ's sake, she's Jamaican and Indian. She went to a HBC. She went to a HBCU.
But she's not Black.
She is an AKA. This is a woman who decided that she was going to be blackety black. So let's not, for those of us who are out there and you have your issues with her, state those issues. But on the other side of that, make it very clear when you are showing dissent that we have two choices.
And I know Nancy want to get in, and we can't pick and choose when representation matters. Because it's like in one verse of the song, representation matters, and then the next verse over, representation doesn't matter. Representation always matters. Because I want to say why. Not only did VP Biden, not only did we hold his feet to the fire because of South Carolina, Black people got you there. Not only Black people, Black women got you there in South Carolina, because it was not looking good for you, sir. People was like, burn, baby, burn, right? And so Black folks got you there in South Carolina. And we said, here's what we want.
And he delivered.
And not only delivered there, I'm going to shout out, they delivered in Florida for Karen. They delivered in also for the chief of staff for the VP in Colleen. My
other Karen. We got some Karens now.
What? We got Karen and Colleen. What else do y'all want? What else do y'all want at this point, y'all? And I'm not saying, again, I don't think anyone on this panel is saying that we don't have to interrogate the past. I don't always think that folks can't be better. And if there's anybody I know who could be better and rise to the challenge, hey, put me in, coach.
Yes.
Do you want to add anything?
I do. So first and foremost, for everybody who's saying that they don't have a choice, we absolutely do. And you all,
can you hear me now? You all said it very well. Can you hear me now? You all said it very well. I can echo everything that you all have said, but I also want to mention that we cannot go another 4 years with this man with his administration period. He has shown to us that he feeds to the bigots, that he does not respect women and women's rights, that he has called us thugs, that he has sent the National Guards on us to do what we know best, which is our Second Amendment, right? Taking to the streets when we feel unheard. If you all want another 4 years of that, then you all continue with the rhetoric that you are saying about Ms. Kamala Harris. And as Black women, we are not nasty. We are queens. We are articulate. We know our facts. We know what it takes to lead. And I'm going to end with this: trust Black women, because we are the ones who are going to continue carrying all of the United States, because we go out to vote and we bring everybody with us, our churches, our cousins, everybody comes with us. So if we want to save democracy, then we need to vote for this Biden-Harris ticket. That is it for me.
Drop the mic.
Can I just say though that it is this weird intersection of folks that are like the anti-Blackness and the misogyny and the xenophobia that is coming out is unacceptable. So I mean, I don't care what this woman has done. I don't care where she was born. None of this is acceptable, and nobody should be accepting it, regardless of where you stand on her record.
You know why? Because even in our imperfection, even in my imperfection, and I know I can be a lot, and people don't like when I say that because I am enough for all of y'all. I'm still a great leader. You know what I mean? Like even in my shortcomings, and I like, it's not, you know, since nasty woman is a thing, I'm like, all of us let's hashtag nasty woman, because we all nasty women at this point, and that's where the president is going. I just think, and then really quickly, and I'll be done, and because we got to move. I just don't see that the administration, the ticket that we're trying to go for right now, I don't see them not responding to COVID. I don't see them calling countries shitholes. I just don't see that kind of stuff.
I also just, so I mean, I'm gonna go there. The hill that you want to die on is Kamala Harris when we have Joe Biden. How are you dragging Kamala Harris more than the author of the crime bill? I'm just saying.
Well,
she's a Black woman, and that's acceptable.
Kasia, do you have anything? We're gonna go to last remarks after this, because I just wanted to bring in a little spice, so we can have these nuanced conversations, that we're all sharp on this panel. We all are well read. We get it, and I can't bash another Black woman on my thing unless you are far. And even then, I'm like, there's certain things I won't.
I didn't bash Mia Love. I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
There's an unspoken rule as Black women. Even if I don't like you and I don't like what you stand for, I just don't say anything. But I'm not gonna bash you. I can politely disagree, right? I can say we don't stand for the same thing, but never ever will it be acceptable for me to allow you to bash a Black woman. And I don't have to know you. You do it on Facebook, you do it on Instagram, you do it on purpose. I got words for you. I'm coming to see about you. She's a Black woman. What we will do is respect her. She's the vice presidential candidate of the United States of America. Her name is Kamala Harris. She's a graduate of Howard University. She's a proud member of AKA Sorority Incorporated. And what we are going to do is respect her. You have two choices. Everything that Nancy says, I co-sign. She's a smart woman. I believe that she will right her wrongs. I believe that this will be an administration that is open to a conversation about real change. I believe that this is an administration that is going to understand the needs of people of color. And this is just where we are. You got two choices: vote and go fill out that daggone census form.
There it is. Last thoughts. How can they find y'all in these Twitter streets and these Corona streets? Tell us how. I love y'all. I really do. When all of this is over, we'll be able to do this in person over some drinks. But Christina, tell us how they can find you and all the amazing things that you're doing.
So you can find me at Tina Batuna on Instagram and Christina Francois on Facebook. And Chris Francois on Twitter. Yeah, I did not stick with the whole consistency thing across social media. And if y'all have anybody in your life that needs to become a U.S. citizen, hit me up, because I help folks become U.S. citizens in Miami-Dade County. Yeah.
And the fees are going up.
Yes, they're going up October 3rd. So for folks that don't know, right now it's $725. It's going up to $1,170. So that's a $500 increase because of the incompetency of this administration.
Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Katya? Tell folks how they can find you.
I'm on Facebook. It's Katya Saint-Fleur. Pretty simple. On Instagram, it's the real Katya. I don't know why I chose that. I don't know if there's a fake Katya, but the real Katya on Instagram, and on Twitter, it's political Katya. So I'm not as active on Twitter as I should be. So, but on Instagram for sure, it's the real Katya, and on Facebook. If anybody has any questions about anything census related, you can hit me up, slide in my DMs. If you need help getting to the polls, if you need assistance with getting people to speak to your groups or organizations, let us know. I'll craft personal text messages if you want to encourage your friends to go vote. Whatever is needed, I think we should use this as a trial run for how to mobilize to make sure that we all go vote in November.
Thank you so much, Katya. And Nancy?
First and foremost, I want to say thank you to you beautiful ladies. I've learned so much from you. And Katya, be careful what you ask for when they slide into your DMs. You may not be happy. But for those who want to follow me or ask me any questions, you can definitely find me at Nancy Mateer on Facebook, Twitter, and IG. And also remember, after August 18th, I'm on the ballot, November 3rd. And please go through the entire ballot because I'll probably be on the last page. But Nancy Mateer for Coral Springs Commissioner, seat 3.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And again, we're with Avancé Ensemble, a movement for Haitian American millennials and all those that are lovers of Haitian culture, Haitian food, Haitian music, Haitian women, Haitian men. You could be a part of this movement too. We are building economic and political power in the Haitian community as well as preserving culture. This was another edition of Not Voté. You got to get it done this Tuesday. If you haven't done it already, you can be in line from 7 to 7 p.m. As long as you're in line at 7 p.m., you have the right to vote. Call us. If you have any questions, you can message us on our wall, not in the DMs, so that we can get you some information, so we can provide some feedback to you all and answer your questions. Thank you again so much, ladies. I don't have the money to pay y'all for y'all expertise and y'all time. I know y'all hourly rate. We ain't got it, but y'all who are listening to them, y'all cannot get them for free. Pay them what they should get paid. Get them as your thought leaders. Make sure that you connect with them and engage with them. I appreciate y'all so much. And I definitely will be seeing y'all soon. Crossing our fingers for Tuesday. Because like I point out, some of y'all. Good night, so good night. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.